Hey everybody, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and you are listening to On Faith's Edge with Joe Taylor. And if you want to get your money's worth, you need to stay right here. Everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
I took massive action to rebuild my temple, to honor God with my body, to stop doing the things that were promoting disease.
Thank you, $1 Million Man, for the introduction. I don't know if there's a connection between today's guest and the $1 Million Man. Maybe he was a wrestling fan, but man, I just loved professional wrestling when I was a kid. Thank you, Ted DiBiase, for the introduction. You can hear my conversation with Ted in a very important interview where he talked about wrestling. He talked about the price of fame and the wear and tear it had on his family and his personal life and his faith, quite frankly. You can hear our conversation at onfaithsedge.com/106. That's onfaithsedge.com/106. Well, welcome to the 125th episode of On Faith's Edge. My name is Joe Taylor, recovering atheist and your servant in Jesus Christ. This is your place to hear conversations about God and living a life of faith in Jesus Christ. Today's guest is Chris Wark. Chris is an author, speaker, and health coach. Chris was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2003 at age 26. And instead of chemotherapy, he used nutrition and natural therapies outlined in the Bible to heal. His book, Chris Beat Cancer, is an Amazon bestseller. He's made numerous TV and radio appearances and was featured in the award-winning documentary, The C Word. I tell you what, this conversation really caused me to take pause and think about the junk that I allow in my body, especially when I compare that to the way God intends us for us to treat this temple he gave us. Quite frankly, I don't think many of us do a very good job, and I may be among the worst. Today, Chris and I talk about why he chose a non-traditional path for his cancer treatment, how important his faith was in beating this disease, and the connection between the Garden of Eden and his healing. Atop the Amazon charts, Chris Beat Cancer has been very well received, Chris. Did you really beat cancer in the truest sense?
Well, considering the fact that I'm alive and cancer-free, yes, I can say I did.
You are right now completely cancer-free. The diagnosis is genuinely no cancer.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and it's been 15 years this December. So, a couple months from now will be my 15-year cancerversary.
Wow. So what kind of cancer did you have?
I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer when I was 26. So, spoiler, I didn't die. I'm 41 now. And, it's a total shock, of course. I mean, no one expects cancer, especially not somebody in their 20s. One of the first verses that came to me, since this is a faith-based show, I'm definitely want to talk about my faith journey and the process. But one of the first verses that I thought of was Romans 8:28, which says, God works all things for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. And so even though I was totally shocked and devastated by this diagnosis, I found great comfort in that verse, because I chose to believe that God was going to work it for my good. I mean, I can't tell you how much that verse has helped me throughout my life and in almost every situation. Anytime there's bad news, right, or what appears to be bad news, trouble in life, obstacles, calamity, catastrophe, right, tragedy, it gives me great comfort to know that God is going to work these bad things that, that we stumble across in life for our good.
Most people who are Christians or who have a faith foundation will say, okay, well, I'm going to put this in your hands, God. But they also pursue a more traditional path to treating their cancer. You didn't do that.
In the beginning, I was told, we've got to get you into surgery right away and get this thing out of you before it spreads and kills you. So there's a lot of fear and urgency surrounding a cancer diagnosis. And this is the first problem. The first problem is that patients are rushed into treatments. They don't understand. They don't know the risks, the side effects. A lot of these treatments can be life-threatening. People have died in surgery, right? People have died as a result of chemotherapy treatments and other non-chemotherapy drug treatments. So there's risks that people don't know what they're getting into when they say yes. And they always almost always say yes just out of fear. And one of the first things I learned right away was that fear-based decisions are almost always the wrong decision. We need to make decisions based on facts and faith, not based on fear. This applies to all areas of life. And so I was told, yeah, we got to get you into surgery. And so, like, I was a very typical cancer patient at that time. And I was just like, okay, whatever you say, doc. And this was a couple days before Christmas. I was able to postpone it till after Christmas because it was so depressing to be in the hospital on Christmas Day, right? And so they actually had the surgery on December 30th, 2003. And they took out a third of my large intestine. They took out the tumor, and they saw during surgery that it had spread to my lymph nodes. So they took out a bunch of lymph nodes. And when I woke up, they said, hey, we got some bad news. You're worse than we thought. You're stage 3C. Stage 4 means it's in 2 organs. So the cancer was spreading. It was on its way to my liver. And they basically said, look, because the cancer was not contained in the tumor, because it was spreading, you're going to need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy because you've got cancer cells, in your body, that we couldn't get it all. We could get everything. We got everything we could see, but, cancer cells are microscopic. What's kind of crazy, most people don't know, is that a 1 centimeter tumor, 1 centimeter, that's really small, has 1 billion cancer cells in it.
Wow.
And that 1 centimeter tumor is throwing off 1 million cancer cells every day into the body. So 1 million cancer cells are escaping that tumor every day. And that's before it even spreads. Cancer cells actually leave the primary tumor site before it's even big enough to detect on a scan. So this whole idea that like, oh, well, if we cut out the tumor, you'll be fine is really false, because you already have cancer cells in other parts of the body. And that's often why cancer comes back after surgery, is because, surgery took out a lot of it, but it didn't get the rest. If your body is a place where cancer can thrive, then new tumors will form. The body creates cancer, and I believe, and I've seen a lot of evidence of this, that the body can heal, right? The body created it, the body can heal it if given the proper nutrients and care. And that's what's missing from medical treatment is nutrition, diet and lifestyle medicine, and a holistic view of health and healing, which is changing the internal environment of the body and making it a place where cancer can't thrive. One of the most important ways you do this is through detoxification and improving your immune function. And nutrition is a foundation of both of those things.
How did you change your nutrition? How did you change your lifestyle?
I'll get to that in a second because I got a funny story to tell here. When I was in the hospital, the first meal, just to give you an indication of how clueless the medical industry is, the first meal they gave me after cutting out a third of my large intestine was a sloppy Joe.
Gosh.
Right? I mean, you're laughing because you're thinking a sloppy Joe sounds horrible at any time.
Yeah, a greasy ground up chunk of meat.
Nasty, right, ground beef and some tomato sauce or whatever they stew it in, slopped on a burger bun. And, you can't even get a sloppy Joe in a restaurant. Nobody likes them. The only place you can get sloppy Joes are at summer camp, the military, and prison.
And now a hospital bed.
As far as I knew. And then, oh, surprise, they serve these to sick people. They serve these to cancer patients. And the just unbelievable irony of that is that red meat is a group 2 carcinogen, according to the World Health Organization. So it's a probable cause of cancer, and colon cancer specifically. So they're like, hey, let's give you some food that is, strongly linked to causing colon cancer after your colon cancer surgery. After they served me the sloppy Joe, which I did eat because I was so hungry. But I was just thinking, like, this is terrible. Like, why are they serving this horrible food to sick people? And then the day I was leaving the hospital, my surgeon came by to check on me, and I asked him, is there any food I need to avoid? And he said, no, just don't lift anything heavier than a beer.
Okay.
I thought maybe he would have some advice. Like, this guy's a digestive surgeon. Maybe he would have some advice on the best foods for digestive health and healing, right? And no, no advice whatsoever on nutrition, and basically gave me a permission slip to go home and eat whatever I wanted, including drinking beer, which alcohol, is a known cancer causer. I go home, I'm recovering from surgery, and I'm thinking about, my life and my future. Like, how much time do I have? What's my story going to be, right? Am I going to be that young guy that died of cancer that everybody's like, oh gosh, isn't that so sad that Chris Wark, like, what a great guy, and he, died in his 20s of cancer. Like, is that my story? That's scary, man.
Yeah.
That's really scary. And I thought about the treatments, and I thought about what they would do to my body, and that was really scary too. I knew they were toxic. I knew they were poison. I knew they'd make my hair fall out. I'd be sick. I would lose weight. I was already really thin, and they would make me weak. I knew there would be suffering, and I was afraid of that. And I had a resistance to it. I think every cancer patient, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do chemotherapy, but they're told, this is a battle. This is a fight. We got to kill the cancer, right? You're a fighter now. You're a warrior. And when you use that kind of language, what you're doing is you're convincing a person that in order to fight, if they accept the fact that they're a fighter and they're a warrior, they have to be strong. And they're also accepting the fact that they have to suffer, right? If it's a battle, you're going to have to suffer.
Right.
And the treatments will make you suffer. I knew nothing at this time, okay? 15 years of reflection and thought and, talking to thousands of cancer patients have shaped my opinion to a fine point. But at that time, I was just clueless, and I just had my instincts and my intuition, and they were saying, no, like, don't do it. It's not right for you. And again, this is not me saying no one should do treatment. It's just me saying I didn't feel like it was right for me. So I prayed about it. My wife and I prayed, and I said, God, if there's another way besides chemotherapy, please show me. A couple days later, I got a book that showed up at my doorstep that came to me. It was sent from a man in Alaska. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. And I start reading this book, and the guy who wrote it had healed his own colon cancer with nutrition. There was some amazing information in the book. Some of it is outdated now. I don't really recommend the book, but it was a miracle for me at the time. It was exactly what I needed.
How did this book come to you, Chris?
The guy who sent it to me knew my dad. He was a business acquaintance of my dad's, and my dad told him I had been diagnosed with cancer, and he just sent me a book.
Wow.
Because he knew about this book with this guy who had healed his own colon cancer.
Sure.
So it was a huge wake up moment for me, because this particular book, this guy made a case. He was diagnosed in the 70s. It's like 20, 30 years later, still alive. And he was basically made the case that the reason we're sick, the reason so many of us have cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, and all these problems, health problems, is because of our diet. They're all diet-driven diseases. They're not bad luck. And what we know now is that only about 5% of cancers are genetic. So up to 95% of cancers are caused by diet, lifestyle, and environment. Those factors we can control for the most part with our choices every day. Stress is an underlying root cause, which I'll talk about. It's hard to measure scientifically, but every cancer patient I've ever talked to had major chronic stress in their life. So what we know is we know what's causing cancer, but doctors aren't telling their patients what the causes and contributors to cancer are. They're just giving them treatments and sending them home to their life that was promoting cancer, right? They're not changing their life. And I realized the way I'm living is killing me, right? The way I'm living is killing me, which at first is kind of scary and sounds like I'm trying to blame the patient, right? Like blaming the victim. But the truth is that's empowering, because when you realize that what you're doing is contributing to your problem, that empowers you to change, right? You realize, wait a second, if this is my fault, if I have something to do with this, then what would happen if I stop doing these things that are hurting me? If you stub your toe on the end of a coffee table, right, it hurts. And you realize, like, oh, I should be more careful when I walk around the coffee table. I immediately knew this was an answer to prayer. The idea that was put forth to me, which I validated in many other books and sources at that time, was that I needed to stop eating all man-made food, processed food, junk food, meat, and dairy products. And I needed to go back to a diet that was based on the Garden of Eden, raw fruits and vegetables.
So you based your diet all the way back to the Garden of Eden with the idea that, hey, this is what God intended us to eat?
That's correct. And this was the diet that this guy had used to heal his own colon cancer, along with drinking tons of carrot juice every day, like 64 ounces a day of carrot juice. Carrots are amazing. So I thought, this is insane, and I love it, though. I love the idea of radically changing my diet, my lifestyle, and overdosing, what I call overdosing on nutrition, and giving my body all of this wonderful stuff that it was not getting. I'd never eaten 3 meals in one day of only fruits and vegetables. I'd never done that. I'd never eaten 3 meals of raw fruits and vegetables in one day either. And I thought, wow. And by the way, the raw food diet, which a lot of people have heard of it now, but back then, like, it was so fringe and weird, I'd never heard of it. I have a very simple, I guess, belief system, and that is, I believe that God created the earth for us, and that everything we need comes from the earth. That everything we need is here for us. And I believe that the Bible is full of wisdom and truth, and we can look to it for answers. Like, it's like the manual for how to live. And, you know, the answer to every problem is in there.
I want to dive deeper into what your doctors had to say and their reaction to, for all intents and purposes, healing. But I want to explore a little bit, Chris. How important was your faith in this process?
Oh, it was huge, man. It was huge, huge. I mean, I love the title of your show, because I really was on the razor's edge of my faith. You know, I was on the edge of it, man, because, I mean, I was desperately believing and trusting in God to deliver me. The other big verse that I found that was just huge to me at the time, and I still love, is in Psalm 34:19, which says, "The righteous may suffer many afflictions, but the Lord delivers him from them all." From them all. And I'm like, that's me. Like, all, right? All means cancer. And I'm going to believe this is true. Like, I'm going to trust God to deliver me from this. And this is my banner verse. Prayer. I mean, I was just going deep in the Word, looking for inspiration and encouragement and wisdom on how to proceed. And of course, I was praying like crazy, like just giving my fear to God every day and trusting him to lead me and asking for signs and asking for help. So, you know, this book shows up, this information shows up. It just clicks with me right away. I'm like, this is it. This is an answer to prayer. I'm doing this. And so overnight, I converted to a raw food diet, bought a juicer, bought tons of fruits and vegetables, and started eating organic fruits and vegetables from the earth, right? I'm like, I'm going to stop poisoning and polluting my body with all this other man-made stuff. And I'm going back to the earth. I'm going to try to get back in harmony with nature and see what happens. Now, my family, for the most part, did not like this plan. And there was a ton of pressure from people who love me to go the traditional route. And will you please go see what the doctor has to say? You know, alternative therapies don't work. I know somebody who tried that and they died.
It had to be scary for them for you to see, you know, you're sitting there eating carrot juice and bananas, and the doctor's saying that you need chemotherapy. That it had to be hard for them to handle.
Yeah, like, you know, broccoli's not going to cure your cancer. You know, you need to do chemo, right? These are the things people are saying to me, and I'm like, so I agreed to go see the oncologist just to appease the people around me. And it's crazy when you pray and you get an answer to your prayer, and you know it. Like, you know, you have the answer, and everyone around you tells you you're wrong and you don't. Do you know what that feels like? It's awful, right? It's a terrible feeling, because you're all of a sudden you're alone. Everyone thinks you've lost your mind. You're a fool. You're stubborn. And then you're just like, it's you and me, Jesus. Nobody else believes me. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. Everyone thinks I'm wrong. You know, and then you're like, then you start to doubt, right? Like, maybe was this just a coincidence? Is this not what I should be doing? Right?
Right.
That's how doubt creeps in and erodes your faith. It's usually the people around you. It's like, Jesus told the parable about the seeds, and the sower, and he's throwing the seeds onto different types of soil. And like the weeds come up and choke out the faith, choke out the truth before it can take root. And weeds are usually the people around you.
Other than diet, did you make any other lifestyle changes?
Changed everything. Changed my whole life. I had to. It wasn't just about the diet. And I'll get into that in a second, but I got to tell the story about going to the doctor. We go see the oncologist, and he told me if I didn't do chemotherapy, I was insane. He scared me into it. And I made an appointment to get a port put in a few weeks to start chemo. I went into his clinic confident in what I was doing and feeling good. I'd been on a raw food diet for 1 week. And he scared me so bad. And that's what they do. It's like a fear factory. They use fear to manipulate patients to take immediate action. And in most cases, cancer patients are not in a life or death situation. Most cancer patients have plenty of time, right? But they treat them all as if it's an urgent life or death. We have to do treatment tomorrow, right, to save your life, kind of a situation. But I was fortunate that I had time to go back, and that I had weeks of recovery still from surgery before they would start chemo. And during that time, man, I just pressed into God, and I just fired up the juicer, man. I kept juicing, kept eating tons of fruits and vegetables, and kept reading and researching and praying and trying to figure out, like, what do I need to do to live and to survive? And I realized I need to change my whole life. So there's a lot of factors that contribute to cancer in our world, and they're widely studied, but not widely known. And the diet is the big one. Okay, we know that around the world, when you look at the cultures with the lowest cancer rates, they eat predominantly a plant-based diet, mostly fruits and vegetables. Now, they're not all raw and they're not all vegan, but they eat mostly fruits and vegetables and very little animal food and almost no processed food, junk food, fast food, restaurant food. Then when you remember earlier I said the three main causes of cancer, up to 95% of cancers are caused by poor diet, which is what we're eating in America. Lifestyle, which is we're sedentary. Sitting is the new smoking. I'm doing this interview standing up at my stand-up desk. We are very sedentary. We've become fat and lazy. The number one cause of cancer is smoking, right? That's a lifestyle decision. Alcohol is a known cause of cancer. That's a lifestyle decision. It's not bad luck, right? It's your choices. The number two cause of cancer is obesity. Obesity. This is not Chris's, harebrained theory. This is from the World Health Organization, from all of the big governing bodies of cancer research, the National Institutes of Health, the National Cancer Institute. They all agree obesity is the number two cause of cancer, and obesity is caused by our choices, right? We choose what we choose to eat and how often we choose to eat. We live in a rich nation. Food is everywhere, and many of us have gotten fat because, frankly, food is good and we like it, right?
Right.
Like, no blame or shame, right? But the point is, like, we're surrounded by food. It's good. We like it. Some of us have slower metabolisms than others, and some of us are using food as medication, right? And to medicate ourselves from dealing with problems in our life and dealing with unhappiness and things. So the end result is obesity is driving most cancers. Cigarettes and obesity, those are the two big drivers. Now, I didn't smoke, and I smoked as a teenager in college, but I wasn't smoking at the time I was diagnosed. Could have been a cause of my cancer, right? It could have gotten me early. It's possible, because smoking causes all kinds of cancers, not just lung cancer. But and I wasn't obese, so that wasn't a factor for me either. But having said all that, we know those are the two biggest causes. So diet and lifestyle, right? Exercise is so powerful for health and disease prevention and healing. So I started exercising every day, 30 to 60 minutes a day, every single day. And any kind of exercise is good. Doesn't matter what kind. If it's If you're getting sweaty exercise, you're doing it right. Right? So this is very simple stuff. 30 to 60 minutes a day, 6 days a week of sweaty exercise. Just pick something you like and do it. Walking, running, jogging, karate, yoga, Zumba, jazzercise, like rock climbing. Just do something, like move your body. And then the environmental piece, that's the third big contributor. Environment, we know we've got all these toxic chemicals in our environment. It's in our water, in the air, in the artificial food we're eating, right? And, a lot of them are off-gassing from products we use. And we're using all these toxic cleaning products and body care products, toothpaste, shampoo, deodorant, lotion, right? Makeup. And we're just slathering all this crap, chemical crap on our bodies. And no, your deodorant didn't cause your cancer, but think about the synergistic toxicity of all of these chemicals circulating in your bloodstream from all these different sources, right? All of those little tiny chemicals that might be innocuous on their own, when they combine with others, they create synergistic toxicity, right? There's a multiple. It's like a multiplier. It's not 3 plus 3, it's 3 times 3. So I just turned my whole life upside down, and I was determined to remove anything from my life that could be contributing to disease. And all those little changes I made added up. So sometimes little changes will produce a big result, but usually what happens is when you make a lot of little changes, right? That's where you get the big result. So I took massive action. That was sort of a theme of my life, massive action. So I didn't want to leave anything to chance. I wasn't looking for a quick fix, a magic bullet, a miracle cure. I was looking at the big picture, like holistically, and I wanted to heal my body. I wasn't trying to kill the cancer, poison the cancer, starve the cancer. I was trying to heal the cancer, heal my body. It boosts my immune system, detoxify my body, give my body all the nutrition it could use to repair, regenerate, detoxify. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this.
Sure.
It was a big picture approach.
What specifically did you remove from your environment that you felt would be bad for your cancer?
I go into so much detail in my book, Chris Beat Cancer, which I know you mentioned earlier, about what I did. But basically, I replaced all my personal body care products with non-toxic organic brands. We cleaned out all of the cleaning products in our home, replaced them with biodegradable, clean, non-toxic brands. I got an air purifier for the house. We got a water purifier for our water. So I just systematically was like, we're just trying to identify and eliminate any potential toxic stuff in my life. And I became very sensitive about where I was living, what I was exposed to, pollution, things like that, right? And avoiding being around. Anytime I've smelled anything toxic, right? I'm like, I should go. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be breathing this. I don't know what I'm breathing right now. I don't want it in my bloodstream. So I became a little bit hypersensitive to that. But again, I was in self-preservation mode, right? I was trying to protect my body and heal it. Found a naturopathic doctor that I worked with. I found an integrative oncologist who supported me, and slowly built a team of support, and had blood work done and CT scans done every 6 months for several years, right? It was just keeping a very close eye on my body and my blood work, and to make sure I stayed well.
What did your doctors have to say through this process, Chris? There had to reach a point where your doctor said, man, I don't know what you're doing or what's going on here, but keep doing it. Or, Chris, yeah, this may look like it's working, but it's coming back eventually. What did your doctors have to say about all of this?
Yeah, well, my surgeon and the original oncologist, I didn't see them anymore because they told me I was making a mistake. They didn't support me. But the naturopath and the integrative oncologist that I worked with, who's now deceased because he was in his 70s at that time, they were cautious, right, but supportive. And they were both concerned. Like, they both wanted me to get well. They didn't want me to die, but they were concerned, right, that they knew how big of a threat it was. They knew how fragile a physical state I was in. They both were just so pleased with every report that came back. we just kind of went from 1 month to the next to the next. And then one day I realized it'd been almost 5 years, got another scan, no cancer. Around the 6.5 year mark is when I decided to share my story publicly. And I started a blog called Chris Beat Cancer. I just started talking about what I did. I started writing articles and making videos about nutrition and fruits and vegetables and juicing and what's causing cancer, all the kind of stuff that I felt like was missing from the internet. Like it just wasn't there. In 2010, there were some alternative health sites and things, but when I was sick, I didn't get any help from the internet. I just went from one book to the next to the next. Created a site to be what I wished had existed for me back in 2004. And since then, I've interviewed, I don't know, probably 70 plus people who've healed cancer without either when conventional treatment failed or without conventional treatment at all, using basically the same exact stuff that I did, right? Hardcore, radical diet and life change. And I have to mention the underlying cause of many diseases and cancers is stress. Stress is something that's a little hard to understand because, we all know when we feel stress, but we don't understand what it's doing to our body. When you're under stress, work stress, family stress, financial stress, or if you're harboring negative emotions and thoughts like envy and jealousy, bitterness and resentment, right? Guilt and shame, all negative thoughts produce negative emotions. And those negative emotions trigger your body to produce stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, to produce more of them than it normally would. And when those hormones are elevated, what they do, and I talk about this in great detail in the book, but to simplify it, what they do is they suppress your immune function. And so if you go through life for months or even years in this state of chronic stress and chronic immunosuppression, your body becomes a place where cancer can thrive. The only difference between a person with tumors and a person with no tumors, by and large, is their immune system. So again, cancer, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long period of time to develop. But usually, I've talked to so many cancer patients, they all say the same thing. They all had lots of stress in their life, lots of problems that they had not dealt with. And they were usually self-medicating. And stress leads us to self-medication with overeating, with drug abuse, with being a workaholic, with being obsessed with entertainment or sex or whatever. And those are all destructive habits, right? But you can trace them back to stress. And so the big one, I think for your audience, for everyone, but especially for your audience, the biggest lever in removing stress from your life, like the biggest bang for your buck, is forgiveness.
Amen.
Forgiveness and making a decision to forgive every person who has ever hurt you in life. And that means you have to sit down, close your eyes and think back through your life, all the way back, and dig out the painful memories of people who've hurt you in whatever way they have hurt you. Dig out those memories and bring them to the front of your mind. And one by one, you forgive that person by name. And the way to do it is so easy. You just say, God, you know what they did. You know how I feel about it. I'm still mad. I'm still upset. It still hurts, right? But I'm choosing to forgive them. And I'm letting it go, and I'm giving it to you. They're all yours, right? They're all yours. I'm not going to carry the bitterness, the resentment, the anger. I'm not going to carry it anymore. I'm just going to lay it at your feet, right? Just lay it at the feet of Jesus, right? Just lay it down. And then you really want to seal the deal. You say, God, even though I would rather you strike them with lightning, I'm asking you to bless them. I'm asking you to bless their family, their business, their children. I'm asking you to have mercy on them and bless them.
You alluded to the Garden of Eden, Chris, in the sense of how you ate. But if you think about the Garden of Eden and how we were intended to live in these bodies that God gave us, the foods in the Garden of Eden, fresh fruits and vegetables, the exercise required to work the garden and to be in the garden. I think God intended us to move and to work and to sweat of course, the environment. There were no toxic chemicals in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
Those just didn't exist. And the stress-free environment of the Garden of Eden, God was there. Adam and Eve, up to a point, of course, we know the story, but up to that point, they gave their cares to God. They depended on God to take care of them, and they just lived in the environment that God blessed them with. And so it was stress-free. So that Garden of Eden example is a thread throughout your entire story. Just amazing how truly biblically based, from the beginning of the Bible, your healing was. So right now you're completely cancer free.
Yes, cancer free. I'm the healthiest and strongest I've ever been in my life. And I love the way you connected all those dots. I mean, it's absolutely right. Fresh air, sunshine, living in a low stress, worry free life, like trusting God with your life and your health and your future. Those are all things I had to learn how to do. Right. And it's a daily practice. When problems come my way, I have to catch myself and say, you know what? I'm not going to worry about this, God. I'm giving it to you. I'm going to trust you. I'll do what I can. Right. And I'm going to trust you with the rest. It says in James that faith without works is dead. And works is a weird word, but what works means is action. Faith without action is dead. It's not faith. Having faith in something means taking action. And for me, like, I took massive action to rebuild my temple, to honor God with my body, right? To stop doing the things that were promoting disease. And I put my faith in him to lead me, and to heal me along the way. And some people get healed miraculously, and I love that. That's the best thing ever. But for me, miraculous healing was not the best thing for me, right? Because it wouldn't have taught me anything. I wouldn't have changed my life, and I needed to change my life.
How far into the process were you when you realized, or your doctors realized, that the cancer was gone?
It was a little different for me because they knew I had cancer in my body, but it wasn't big enough yet, right, to detect on a scan, right? They took out this tumor, they took out the lymph nodes, and they knew, okay, this guy's got cancer. Like, surgery doesn't cure stage 3 cancer. From their perspective, it was just a waiting game to see where the next tumor would form. My entire intention was to empower my body to eliminate the cancer cells that were still in my body that were looking to take root, right? To create an environment where they couldn't thrive, which they call an inhospitable. It's a medical term, right? An inhospitable environment to cancer. So it was a waiting game, right? It was like blood work, monthly, watching my tumor markers, scans, looking for a new tumor, right? That's what they were doing.
Based on your experience, and I guess it's disclaimer time, you're not a doctor, I'm not a doctor. Always consult your doctor and seek medical advice. We get that. What advice would you give to somebody that has just received a cancer diagnosis and is facing what you faced 15 years ago?
Right. I'm not a doctor. I don't treat patients. I don't give medical advice. I'm a patient advocate, right? I'm a survivor. And what I see my life's work, my goal, my mission is to empower patients to do everything they can do, right? To give them the information, resources, inspiration, encouragement, to do everything they can do to help themselves heal, to prevent cancer or prevent a recurrence of cancer, or to heal existing cancer. And that can be along with your doctor and along with conventional treatment, or it can be without conventional treatment. That's everyone's individual choice. But I get excited when I see stories of people who've healed without conventional treatment, because it's proof that the body can heal. Proof that there are things that are being ignored. The capability of the body to heal is being ignored. The medical industry has this sort of assumption that, well, if it's not healing it now, right, then it never will heal it. And instead of looking at the reasons, well, wait a minute, why do you have cancer? What are the contributing factors? What can we remove? What do we need to address? What are the root causes of this? We live in a cause and effect world. Like, everything has a cause. And cancer is not a runaway train in which you have to blow up the tracks. That's a linear view. Having said all that, the thing that patients need to know, first of all, is that you have options. You have more options than you realize. And you need to take a step back and read and research and look at your life and ask yourself, is the way I'm living killing me? What do I need to change in my life? My answer is everything, which I talk about in detail, like step by step, how to do this in my book. Taking that position of, okay, I have a part to play in this. One of the big problems with the cancer industry, and there are many, and I address many of the problems of the industry in my book. One of them is that patients, almost all patients, ask their doctor, like, why do you think I got cancer? And invariably, the doctors will say something like, well, you have family history. And if they say yes, then they'll say, oh, well, it's just hereditary. Or if they say, no, I don't have any family history, they'll say, well, it still could be hereditary, or, it may just be bad luck.
Mm.
And what they're doing, what they maybe don't realize they're doing, is when they tell patients those things, they're turning them into a powerless victim of disease. Nothing you did contributed to your disease in any way. There's nothing in your life that contributed to this disease. Therefore, there's nothing you can do to help yourself aside from show up for treatment. We have the best available treatments. We will take care of you. You just make sure you show up for your next appointment, and we'll do our best and we'll hope for the best. But we cannot make you any promises or guarantees. And so that disempowers a person, and they basically tell them to go home and back to their life that was contributing to cancer, and go home and eat whatever you want. In fact, they don't just say eat whatever you want. They say you should eat. Here's a helpful guide of foods you should eat while you're doing chemo, which includes ice cream, milkshakes, burgers and pizza, yogurt, all these high calorie, high fat foods. Borderline just malpractice, right? I mean, because we have this huge list of evidence, huge mounds of evidence on the causes of cancer. But I don't blame the doctors, because the doctors are trapped in a system that pays them really well, and they only get like 15 minutes with the patient.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough time to do anything, right? It's barely enough time to tell them what kind of cancer they have and what the next appointment is going to look like. It takes a lot more time to help someone understand what they're doing and how they might be contributing to their disease and what they can do to help themselves heal. I mean, a lot of doctors, they don't even tell a cancer patient to quit smoking if they smoke.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable, man.
It is unbelievable, and it is the truth. They don't tell obese cancer patients that they need to lose weight. And why not? Because it's an uncomfortable conversation. They don't want to hurt their feelings.
You provide some great resources at chrisbeatcancer.com. Give us just a really brief overview of what we can find at chrisbeatcancer.com.
There's a lot of articles and videos, but they're all oriented toward one thing: is giving you information, inspiration, encouragement, and resources that you can use to change your life and help your body heal. And like I said, I've interviewed tons and tons of people who've healed cancer with nutrition and natural non-toxic therapies. I've interviewed a lot of doctors and experts on holistic health and nutrition. It's just, the site has just become something I'm so proud of. It's just become this sort of wellspring of life and health and hope. Hope is kind of become a dirty word, because everyone tries to use it to manipulate cancer patients, right? But I think the most powerful hope of all in this scenario is that your body can heal, that you're not a powerless victim, right? You have to take responsibility for your health and your situation. You have to take massive action if you want to help yourself. But this is good. This means that you have power to affect your future with the decisions you make every day. To me, that's exciting. That excited me, and I've just, millions of people hit my website every year, and I have more messages than I can ever respond to, but so much love and support and praise and encouragement from the people that I serve because of the encouragement and hope that I'm giving them. Some of your audience are cancer patients, and so it's great for them. And some of your audience are people who probably don't want to get cancer, right? And current estimates, 1 out of every 2 men is going to get a cancer diagnosis, and almost 1 out of every 2 women are going to get a cancer diagnosis in their life.
That's so.
And by the way, yeah, it's sobering. It's serious. Like, it's coming. Like, you're on track to get cancer if you're not taking steps now to reduce your risk. And the steps to reduce risk are easy. Eating 10 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. Like, that's a minimum. Basically eating a plant-based diet. It doesn't have to be all raw or anything like that. You don't have to get a juicer, right? But you need to focus your diet on whole fruits and vegetables and very little animal food, fast food, and junk food. Very little, very, very little. A few times a month as a treat, You need to exercise every single day. Like, this is you loving yourself, taking care of yourself. You need to forgive and give your worries and fears to God, right? And catch yourself in the middle of negativity and negative thinking and negative emotions, right? Like, you got to take every thought captive, as the Bible says. So these are, again, they're not complicated things. You don't have to spend $1 million on supplements or, whatever, or gizmos or gadgets, lotions and potions. But aligning yourself with nature, living in harmony with nature is really, I guess, the overarching theme of what I did and what we need to do as a culture to reduce the just runaway train of cancer diagnosis that's happening right now. So, for anybody serious about prevention, my site's awesome for that. It'll equip you with so much good stuff. And really, the book, same intention there. It's just taking everything I've learned and condensing it down into very straightforward action plan. Tells my story, talks about the problems with the cancer industry, medical industry, and what's missing, and then what you can do to help yourself. So it's kind of all in there. And again, not against doctors, not against conventional treatments and things like that. Yes, I said no to chemotherapy because that's, for me, it wasn't the best choice, but you can still do those treatments, but there's a gap, right? And I'm trying to bridge this gap between conventional medicine and holistic health. And it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can incorporate a holistic approach to health and healing along with conventional medicine.
Your faith, Chris, was obviously very important to you in this process. You can see the string of your faith through your healing. How did you come to believe in Jesus Christ?
I came to know Jesus at a very young age, and to believe in him, when I was 6 or 7 years old. In high school, I rebelled, junior high school. I kind of rebelled against that and saw a lot of things in the church. I went to a Christian school. So, just saw a lot of hypocrisy and stuff like that, and used that as an excuse, to rebel. Humans are not perfect. They make mistakes. And unfortunately, we have given Christianity a bad name through a lot of dumb mistakes we've made as humans, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, I saw some of those things, and I thought, if this is what it's about, I'm not interested. But as I became a young adult in college, and was out on my own in the world, I realized, after pursuing what the world had to offer, I just realized it was empty. It was just empty, and it wasn't giving me peace or joy or fulfillment or contentment. I realized that what was missing was a relationship. It wasn't a religion. It was a relationship with Jesus, the man, the person, right, who is alive. As I dipped my toe back in the water, so to speak, and started going back to church, I found a community, a non-denominational church that my girlfriend dragged me to, girlfriend who became my wife. And it was so different. I grew up at a mega church or whatever. And this small community church, charismatic community church, was just such a breath of fresh air to me. And I just saw people who loved Jesus in a way that I'd never seen before. And it was so contagious to me and so attractive. And I was like, wow, this is what it's about. Okay. I see, I understand now. And I wanted it. So I just, surrendered. I was like, God, I surrender. You are Lord. I am willing to believe that Jesus, that you are everything you claim to be. And that's really the crux of faith, isn't it? It's who do you believe that Jesus is? Because he said he was God in the flesh. He said he was the Son of God. You don't make those kind of claims unless you're insane, right?
Yep.
Or you are, in fact, God. Here's the thing. If you just open a Bible and read the book of John, if you're not a believer, if you're not sure what you think about God or Jesus or anything, if you just read the book of John, just read Jesus's words, read about his life, look at how he lived his life, look at how he loved people and served people and what he spent his time on earth doing. You just realize, like, this is the greatest example of love and service of any person who's ever lived on earth. I mean, you can't help but not fall in love with him as a person, right? Just as an example to all humanity of how to live and how to love your neighbor and how to care for the poor. That's all he spent his time doing was with the poor, the outcast, the needy, the sick. So like when you just see that, you just realize, like, oh, this is what Christianity is. It's about trying to be like Jesus, which is impossible, but following him, trying to be like him, trying to love others the way he loved, trying to serve the way he served. That's it. Like, that's the core of Christianity. It's unfortunately, it's gotten blown out into, all kinds of things that Jesus never said anything about or had anything to do with.
And has nothing to do with him.
Right, and have nothing to do with him.
Yeah,
it's true, and there's a lot of well-intentioned, well-meaning people that, whatever. I'm not trying to bash churches and stuff, but just at the absolute core is like, just go find out who Jesus is for yourself. Go figure out who he is, and once you see who he is and what he said what he claimed to be, right, which is the Son of God, the Savior of the world, then decide if you believe it. And for me, it was just so easy to believe. Like, once I got to know him a little bit, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to believe this. This is like so much better than anything else, the world has to offer me, any other belief systems, any other religious ideas. And so that's, that was where my faith really came alive in my early 20s. And then, then it was challenged in a big way about 5 years later with the cancer diagnosis. But it really forced me to go even deeper in my faith and just say, okay, God, like, I'm going to believe you're going to work this for my good. And he has. I could say today now that he worked it for my good. My life is so much better than I ever could have imagined because he carried me through cancer, right? Cancer wasn't good, wasn't a blessing, right? I mean, I could say in some ways, maybe it's, make the case it was a blessing in disguise. But really, I don't feel like it was a blessing. I believe that God worked it for my good, right? He took the bad thing and worked it into something that blessed me and has blessed many other people. And it's just a privilege and a joy and an honor just to be able to do what I do, to be able to encourage people and love on them and give them hope and information and resources that they can use to heal themselves.
The book is Chris Beat Cancer, and it's available on Amazon.com, atop the Amazon list. Chris, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Oh, Joe, man, this is so much fun. Thank you for having me. I just appreciate so much being able to share my story with your audience.
God bless you, brother.
God bless you.
Chris Beat Cancer is available on Amazon.com, and Chris's website is chrisbeatcancer.com. He can also be found on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. These links, as well as all the other links, can be found in today's show notes at onfaithsedge.com/125. That's onfaithsedge.com/125. I love bringing you engaging conversations about faith. If this show entertained you, if it encouraged you, if it informed you, if it brought value to you in any way whatsoever, will you consider using any Amazon link at onfaithsedge.com? We'll get a modest commission from the purchase, but it doesn't cost you a penny more. Well, that'll wrap up today's show. Thank you to Chris Wark for being with us, and thank you for listening. You mean a lot to me, and you mean a lot to this show. Remember, God is real, He loves you, and so do I. God bless.
Thank you for listening to On Faith's Edge. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Stitcher Internet Radio, or your favorite podcast app on Android, Apple, or Windows devices. To reach out to Joe or leave comments about the show, visit onfaithsedge.com. You're important to us, and we would love to hear from you.